Welcome back to the game. Ich bin Matt Lee und ich komme live aus Berlin zu Ihnen. As always, be sure to like, subscribe, share, turn on the alert notifications, right? And just so you know, I've been practicing my German for like 2 years just for that one sentence. It's the only thing I brought today. No, but thank you for being here. Dom couldn't make it today, and so we're just doing this one as a little bit of a soliloquy. It is 10 o'clock at night right now. I'm in my hotel room. I just got back from about 8 miles walking today and doing things. And I just attended our first Beyond EMEA event, right? This hasn't happened before. We've had Beyond in Denver. We've had that play out a couple times. But this is the first time we got to bring this over to Europe. And in fact, one of the staggering things that I actually heard from a lot of the partners was, thank goodness we haven't had this kind of quality stuff. We have very limited numbers of these here in Europe that we can actually attend and participate in. And so it's been very awesome to get to spend time here. This was Libby kicking off when she's talking about the marketplace to people in a world that really kind of are just getting immersed in it for the first time. The venue was amazing. She was speaking towards it. It was fantastic for me. Ryan Walsh, as always, kicked it off. One of the things I'll speak towards, you've just seen two of our executive photos here. We really brought everyone. I'm sure the risk analysis was done before we decided to send every single executive. I mean, we had John Street, we had Nick Hetty. Next photo for me. We had a whole bunch of people. We had Jen Bodell kicked it off. And actually, I'll speak towards this. Jen Bodell is a rock star, absolute rock star. And it's been so cool to watch her grow over the last, I don't know, 5 years that I've known her. 4 years, but really also just seeing her execute this event as her sole and own thing that she's owned in such a high fashion has been amazing. So Jen was there and she got to kick it off, and I'm super happy she's getting more stage time. Libby also, I wanted to take this to call this out, is probably one of the nicest humans in the world. She never misses an opportunity to make Kat feel welcomed. She is probably one of my favorite people. It was funny. There was a whole bunch of executives, and I'm going to catch some flack for this, sitting up there. And I said, you know what? My favorite executive up there is absolutely Libby. And she's direct, she's smart, she's capable, she's humble, and she's so very kind. So we had Libby kicking off and introducing a lot of different things throughout this conference. Next, please. This was one of the most amazing panels. So this was a diversity panel speaking about women in tech. And on the far right is a woman that runs Hacker School, and she actually is in the business of educating fifth, sixth, seventh, and eighth graders that it's okay to be in nerdy businesses. It's great to code. It's cool to code. In fact, at one point, she said, "We do not code with our uteruses. So therefore, I think it is something to involve more." And it was fantastic. People loved her. And I have a bunch of stickers from her, and we traded stickers. I'm also probably going to have her come back on the game and talk about their mission directive that they've been doing in Germany to try to make it better and more inclusive in trying to get the diversity we need in cyber and in coding and in STEM type things. So that was a fantastic panel. It was great to get up and fanboy a bit, have a great conversation with Dr. Friedenberg. All right, next, please. Continued panels by just massive experts next. And we can just kind of fly through these. I'm a little behind. Okay, wonderful, good. So one of the things that I love about this, and we'll kick off and get some brilliant words from Robin Harris in a second. One of the biggest takeaways that I found was just how freaking attentive people were. The overarching aspect of how many people asked questions. I almost lost my voice. I'm still struggling with it. But basically, it was just one constant conversation after another conversation. And I genuinely believe the most value comes out of hallway cons. People pushed back about some of my concepts. People thought that maybe they had a different opinion, and we got to have some good conversations. So it was fantastic, and we'll go over what those things that I was proposing were here in just a little bit. Until then, let's go ahead and hear some brilliant words from Robin Harris.
Are you ready?
Well, we're going into the fourth quarter. And what that means is we're going into the holiday seasons. It's going to be here in a minute. And we got to get ready because the bad guys have a new tool, and they are inspired and ambitious to use these new tools to cause more mischief, harm, and to do more bad things. And they are getting very sophisticated. We're going to have to start really thinking very carefully when we're interacting. We need to know who we're interacting with. We need to know if this email is real. We need to know before you scan that QR code in that Amazon box that that's not really an Amazon box and that QR code is going to take control of your phones. Think about Black Friday and all those emails we get. And we're so excited to like click that link and get that sale. Think about Cyber Monday. It's gonna be really challenging for us to slow down and think about what we're doing before we do it. Otherwise, the holiday season is gonna just not be that great for some people because they're gonna get scammed. And in our work environment, I don't know how many spam emails you get. We're filtering them out as best we can, but there's so much junk coming into the email inboxes. It's so much so that when we send compliance emails to people, they're like, is this real? Can I click this? I was like, yeah, that's really from us. You can click that because you need to go fix something. People just don't know what's real and what's not real. And it's going to get more serious and harder to discern. So we've upgraded our tools, and it's an investment, and then there's this learning curve, and then you have to implement things. And the good thing is your customers need to do the same thing. So you want to go through the process of upgrading your security tech stack and making sure you're playing at the next level, because the bad guys are going to be playing at the next level. But that's also going to give you some really good insight into how to serve your customers and what they need to do to be more secure and safe. And take this as an opportunity to just learn to respond to the changing threat landscape and make some choices that are going to set you up for success and help you set your clients up for success. And these skills don't just stay in the office. We have to take them home with us. We have children, we have elderlies, we have spouses. They're vulnerable, and the bad guys know it. And some of our customers, they really don't know this stuff, and they're so vulnerable. How much of a service would it be to just send something out during this season to remind your customers to pay attention, to be aware, situational awareness? That would be a very valuable thing to provide to your customers to help them stay security aware during this season. Get into the habit of being the resource that everybody can count on, not just your customers, but your family, your friends, your community. That's my 2 cents on the matter.
Time to level up. Level up.
Oh man, it's so good to hear words from Robin Harris. One of the things I love the most is that she delivers it in a slow and absorbable fashion that people can actually absorb what she's talking about, and always has sage advice. I think that you only come here probably to listen to her brilliance, and I'm just here as fluff around the edges. But I'm glad you're here either way. Teasing aside, so I was super excited to get to present in Beyond in EMEA, and myself and Mostyn Thomas and Andreas from over here in the European areas got together and said, "What are we going to do? Like, how can we make use of three 30-minute sessions, 101, 201, and 301? I can't teach you 301 in 30 minutes. I could at best maybe tackle a topic in what I would think a 301 is in that time frame." And we were really struggling. And I also like to do things that are a little avant-garde. And so we tried something different. We decided that we're kind of all nerds and we don't mind role-playing games. And so what we did was we decided to do a level 10 meeting, right, which is traction or EOS traction. And we did a level 10 meeting that many of you watching right now should be familiar with. And in that level 10, we all got up on stage and we pretended to be in the same fictitious company. And we asked the audience in that first one, there was over 100 or so people there, to pretend like they were also a part of that company. And we were going to execute a level 10 meeting. We were going to go through our agenda. We are going to kick off with a segue. We were going to get into headlines. And in those headlines on the stage in 101, we pretended to be having headlines that would be very commensurate with a 101 type company. So we were saying things like internal security, we're finally patching everything. We're actually doing no testing, but we're at least patching. We're not doing any phone scanning. And internal security, we've implemented MFA on everything. But as we moved into the 201s, that MFA became SSO. As we moved into 301s, that SSO became SSO with RBAC and ABAC and extensibility through SCIM. And we started seeing how that extended and extended and extended. And so too did client delivery. We went from having no password manager at all to having our clients use password managers, and then from just having them to actually using them to having SSO to moving to their own versions of access control management and things of that nature. And what was so wonderful was as we got into the IDS, we would let the crowds choose what they wanted to talk about first. And we also let them bring up new IDS things to bring up. And everybody was super participatory. And it was almost as if you feel like, oh, I'm not really talking about the problems I'm having. I'm talking as if I'm in this fake MSP over here where there's no negative repercussions for my thoughts and my actions. I'm just playing this character over here. And what that allowed to happen was a bit of magic, I think. We had pushback that you would never get, in my opinion, in other ways with a stage presentation. Matt, I disagree. SSO could kill you. Talk about it now. I can force you, speaker. You're my puppet. And it was amazing because it let us have an interaction just like we were sitting there in the room with people that you might not have in your organization. People like Mostyn Thomas, who is amazing. He's been around doing this forever. He teaches master classes on this. We brought in what I thought were representative 101s, 201 and 301 MSPs, or at least had been in those spaces, to be able to share their ideas on stage and add context to it. And that allowed them to add humor. In fact, one of the fun things was Paul Croker, and I love you, Paul, showed up 5 minutes late to the first one. So we kept his chair there, and I asked the audience when he came in to razz him and make fun of him. And when he did, they subsequently did. And it was amazing. And then I teased him throughout and said, we already assigned that to you, Paul. You weren't here. Remember in the first 5 minutes? We assigned you that task. You now need to do it. And it was just, I think it was a fun way to deliver it. More importantly, what was cool was afterwards, so very many MSPs pulled me aside and said, Matt, I saw what you were doing there. That was really neat. And it was fun, right? Because you take a risk and you're afraid and you think it's going to fail and you don't know if you're going to deliver value and you're doing it for people that aren't in the same cultural bias that you're in. We'll speak to that a little bit more later. But it was fun and rewarding. And Mostyn, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for doing that with me, for all the participants that joined us, and I have selfies for all of you. But thank you for doing it. It was a blast. And for everybody that pushed back or asked questions or threw stones in the audience, that's exactly what we wanted out of this. And I hope you also got value. One of the neatest things that I got from Mostyn, and he just texted me this, I'll try to redact it so it doesn't sound all sappy. But Mostyn sent me a text when he was in the train station. Saying, hey, Matt and Kat, because he also makes my wife feel quite seen. Just waiting at the airport for our flight back to London. Just wanted to thank you for making these sessions so rich in information and informative and entertaining too. I had very many compliments last night, even that they learned what an L10 is. It dawned on me that some of these businesses aren't operating using the business operating system. We would have never grown to 40 million in revenue if we weren't following a business operating system, period. It would not have happened. We would have imploded or plateaued many, many, many other ways. He goes on to say there's a nope, that's too sappy. He's being very nice. Okay. So the point is that we're seeing lots of feedback. People thought it was valuable. And I hope that if you got anything out of it, please put comments in. If you're here, you're probably up and because we are in Germany, might very well have a few beers in you that follow the Bavarian purity standards. So it'll be good beer too. No, but I appreciate it. So it was kind of something neat. And so the 101, 201, and 301s were a way to say, and I asked the audience, come back for 201 for two reasons. One, I want you to tell me if you think you're a 201 or a 101. And two, if you don't show up at 201, I know you're a 101. No, I tease. But the fun thing was, it was awesome to get people there. They all came back for more. And many people said, we are definitely a this, a 201 or a 101. I'll also share one more experiment that I've done all over the world now. Is I ask people in the audience to raise their hand if they, out of a 1 out of 10, where their cybersecurity knowledge is. If you're above a 1, raise your hand. If you're above a 2, keep it up. If you're above a 3, keep it up. What's funny is in Australia, max average in 5 different presentations I gave in 5 different cities, was about a 3.5, 4. In the United States, guessing at home, you can put your answer in the comments or you can just think it to yourself. How many people have their hand up above a 5? What about a 7? The average score in the United States is about a 7. And I don't actually postulate that it's because they know more. There's an interesting affect I find somewhat globally is that we Americans, self included, put ourselves pretty high up on a pedestal because it's our armor. But it was very interesting to see how that armor doesn't happen here. And in some ways, it feels like those people with hands down talk to me about more complex topics than I talk to my sevens about on a daily basis in the United States. And that really stood out to me. And if I could give any call to action to the United States side is maybe have a little bit of humility, maybe be more curious and more willing to lean into self-doubt of your own strengths. That'd be my piece that I took away. So there's the first takeaway from this is that it does seem almost globally people are more humble than we are, even with somewhat better skills in some ways. So I'd leave it with that. Okay, so let's get on with it. I took some awesome photos. I had a really good time, so we're gonna try to pop through a few of them. I love getting to a conference before it's set up, like as they're plopping stuff together. I also am happy to say that none of those letters got rearranged into terrible words and everything stayed exactly where it should. So that's also fantastic. But no, it's always great to get there early and get to see things getting set up. You almost see how the magic's made. It blows my mind how quickly they lay down this plastic and visqueen so they can roll stuff in and out and then pull it up so everything's perfect before they go forward. It's just nuts. Next picture for me. Okay, got to hang out with people. One of the things I love about conferences is I get to spend so much 2D time with people. I spend so much time in remote conversations with vendors, with our partners that do business with Pax8 that you do business with. And these are those moments where I get to go and actually spend time. That's Sharif with DropSuite, the CEO of DropSuite. And I love getting to go and walk one by one, spend time asking how their life is, learning what I can learn from them and the things they've been experiencing, and also meeting now their European teams and people that have been here as well was another added benefit. Next picture for me. Okay, now could not help myself on this one. I had to tell this guy he had the most amazing beard. I feel like we might have even been separated at birth. And if it weren't that his eyes pointed forward instead of in two different directions most of the time, I might have believed that he actually was a separated cousin or brother. No, this guy was great. Another one of our MSPs, same barber, everything. It also speaks towards just the fun you have in some of these events, right? And the camaraderie that exists and the people you get to go speak with. Next slide, please. And these are my favorite. Okay, I'm totally a nerd. I'm totally a goober, but I love taking selfies from the stage with the people I co-speak with and of the audience, because afterwards you can go back through and find tons of little nuggets of people and what they've done to say hello in their own various ways. It was really neat. We had a mix of partners from the Netherlands, the Dutch were the Germans, the French, the UK, Ireland. Right, we had people from all over the place: Singapore, Southeast Asia, Australia, United States. It's really nuts. And they filled this room, and that far left side was, I think, 14 rows deep, and on the far right side similar. And it was just packed. This first kickoff session where we introduced this topic and we went through the 101, 201, and 301. And many of the people that asked questions in this were the ones we brought up on stage, because Mostyn and I really wanted to make this feel like people that weren't prepared. And they weren't, because we didn't tell them until we asked them that day. And we brought them up to be panelists as part of this, and we put them on the spot to talk about 101 when they may have looked at that concept and go, man, I'm gonna read ABAC, but I don't even know what ABAC means. And I apologize, right? Or attribute-based access control. But anyways, the selfies are my happy place. I like to think that I've done this, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times now, and one day I'll get to go back and make this awesome collage of every human that I've ever gotten to share a terrified moment with. One full of expectation, where we're trying to give more to you than you hope to receive, and we know that we're teaching people in various different levels of understanding or context, and it's really hard. And I hope one day I get to look back on that with a lot of fondness. The Beyonds will be the most special to me because it's home court. I don't get to play on home court as often. Next picture for me. One of the reasons that I am able to do this on a constant basis is that I have my lovely wife, Kat, with me at almost all times. And this was an amazing experience for her as well, because we were so very included as the cyber leads that we are. I mean, if you're going to spend, 300 something days a year on the road, 250 days a year on the road, why not do it with your better half, who helps like grab you and turn you and point you in the right direction, make sure I show up at the things I say I'm going to show up to. But no, that notwithstanding, the other piece of this is it's so cool to see how many people are just blown away. This was the enter. As soon as you walked into the hotel, this was what we saw. In fact, you'd already seen 15 PAX 8 logos by the time you get there, and even flags. We even had all the PAX 8 flags up there. It was just amazing. But what I love is, and this is why we stopped and did this, was this was Brooke Lee. She also was stopping to take a picture because it's just that awesome when you get walked in, when you walk into that. And maybe there's some aspect of it from a nostalgia or from a excitement of being in a different country and a different continent. In fact, I've never been to Europe. This is my first time to Europe, and getting to come here and walk the streets and experience new things culturally and learn from people was fantastic. But this was that first shocking moment as you walk in of, I'm at Beyond. Anyways, next. Okay, again, to this point, people are extremely awesome to get to meet in person that you've worked with over time. So the young lady to the left, I did get to meet with before, but all the other rest of this crew from Lookout, I had never met with before. And so it was very awesome to get to hang out and sit and chat with people you just don't ever see that you won't run into in other cases. Next slide. Okay, one last shout out. I love me some WatchGuard. I've been good fans of WatchGuard for a long time, and Danny couldn't make it, but I did get to meet his partners there. And what's great about this, if you look in the background of this shot, you have at every single booth people being engaged with. In the middle of each table, you have people pushing back on ideas, sharing thoughts, shaking hands, having discussions, and it's just I think those are the type of things that remind me of what conferences are valuable for, which is that interaction of human to human. And if you're one of those thousand that go to all the conferences that you're there, drag somebody that's not been. Try to bring more people in so they can experience that kind of camaraderie, conversation, education, thought sharing, right? Lead sharing, idea sharing. I guess that fall under thought sharing. So Matt loses some points there. So that's totally cool. Awesome. Yeah. So let's go ahead and roll though. One of the things I love is that we have had the American side and we've had the EMEA side, but I'd love to roll some footage we actually did from Berlin for the promo here. Let's go. I was so excited about it. And one of the things that wasn't really shown there, and we're going to talk about it and then I'll show you. I walked at this point about 22 or so miles, 25 miles, whatever it's been over the last few days being here, not in the hotel. This is irrespective of that, outside walking on the streets with my wife and going to various things with partners and friends and vendors alike. And what was so neat is you would just walk and then all of a sudden stumble into a bear statue. There's a bear here. There's a bear on the Bavarian flag. You have bears everywhere, some of them on all fours, golden bears. You have all of them, even at the different consulates. And what's really neat about the Intercontinental is that we're just a few seconds from all of the consulates or all of the embassies. It's really neat. My wife and I looked at all the physical controls that were in the front of each of the different embassies and the way they approached it, right? Some were laser, some were using cameras, some had physical patrols, some people, anyways, delineation. But even some of those consulates had their own really cool bear painted up, right? And they had that up in front and had South Korean flags on it. And you had the bear holding something very uniquely South Korean. And it was just really awesome. And so when you're in someone else's country and when you're living in that world, it is so neat when someone thinks to try to be culturally in that same space. It was awesome to see what they had done with the team to not only have this really nice designed bear and actually in the exact format of what's going around from a cultural perspective, but also it's signed. I got to put my name on the top left shoulder. So if you want to go forward to check for me, you can just go to the top left shoulder of this bear in Zwala. and you will be able to find my signature. But everybody got to sign the bear and feel like we got to put a part of it and leave a little part of us in Berlin, and be part of it as employees involved in this. And so it's really awesome. It brings some super throwbacks to the old stuff we've done. It's just a delicious design element, and I think nothing could make you feel more at home, I guess, in a country than being more aligned culturally, trying to do things that allow us to have some of that there. And I know that's going to the Zwella office, and it's going to be a really neat piece. And I hope to one day get there and see that as well. Also, one of the things that I want to talk about is that Beyond EMEA next year is going to be in Amsterdam. And we're going to be taking the same great stage, the same stuff here, if you'll bring that video up, and we're going to be making it even better. One of the greatest things that I got to hear from partners was just how detailed and how cadenced and managed the entire experience was for them. From the smoke and the atmosphere to the music that was playing to the way the lights were done to how we even had monitors way back so that people in the back 97 rows could also see what was happening on stage, even if you thought Carl Lewis was about that tall. And he was significantly taller. And believe it or not, he can jump from the left side of that stage to practically the right side of that stage. It is impressive. They actually walked it off and showed. But again, back to the point, Beyond EMEA is going to be in Amsterdam. And before we even left, 165 partners had already signed up to be at the next one in Amsterdam. And so it was wild just to see that that had already played out. I think if you haven't joined a Beyond, you should. If you have not been to one that is in your region, you should. If you haven't been to one that's outside of your region, you should. And I don't get paid by Jen Bodell every time somebody buys a Beyond ticket. I'm simply saying for me, it always changes my contextual awareness of the world by being immersed in different parts of that world. One of the interesting things about how we sometimes find ourselves there is I'm going to bring up a picture of a fella, and those are about the broadest eyes I've ever seen with excitement. And the reason is those two tickets that he has there, he won a Ducati standing next to me at his first Beyond in the Americas, and he was a UK citizen. And so he still walks around after he won that Ducati in the first one. He came to the second one here now in his home turf in EMEA, and he brought the tickets. He has them literally in his wallet. He was able to pull them out on command for me to say, this, this happened at the last Beyond, right in his wallet when he had won that Ducati. And it was so neat because I actually got to stand next to this gentleman when he won it. And then when he saw me, his eyes lit up and he wanted to show me that he still had it yesterday. And I wanted to close on that because it is that culture, I think, that I think just only exists in these type of environments. And yes, I've said Beyond a lot. I love Beyond. There's a lot of great events that are like that. But when you do find ones like this, you find that magic continuing to play over and over and over again. That's really all I've got today, y'all. Please join us next week when we talk with Sandy McGrath, the Sandy McGrath. He is a Canadian national treasure, if you're not aware. So if you are not, come prepared. He is amazing. We'll see him next week. And remember, even though I'm tired, I'm going to try to close this out by asking you to be here on YouTube every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Mountain Time or 10 p.m. CST or UTC +5, I believe it is. Thank you all so much. I really appreciate it. I'm going to sleep.